on fundamental rights. Now, I would like to talk specifically about the basic structure of the Constitution. In fact, in the amendability of fundamental rights, I talked about it, but let us have more clarity about it, the various aspects of basic structure and how has it evolved and everything. Let me just talk. So, the topic heading is basic structure of the Constitution. Basic structure of the Constitution. In fact, in the Keshavanand Bharati case, Supreme Court came out with this idea, and that is why it is called, it's a judicial innovation. It's termed as a judicial innovation. It is not found anywhere within the Constitution. Not found in the Constitution. Not found in the Constitution. In fact, it is not mentioned, or rather it is nowhere found even in the Constituent Assembly debates and all. It is a judicial innovation of Keshavanand Bharati case 1973. So, the 24th Amendment Act, see, if you look back the history a bit, see in the Golaknath case, for example, Golaknath case, Supreme Court declared that the Parliament has no power to amend any part of the Constitution, including the fundamental rights. That was in 1967. So, Parliament has no power to amend the Constitution. But in the 24th Amendment Act, the Parliament restored the amending power. 24th Amendment Act, Parliament restored the amending power. But, so this was challenged in the Supreme Court in the Keshavanand Bharati case, and in the Keshavanand Bharati case, Supreme Court said that yes, Parliament has amending power, but subject to basic structure of the Constitution. So, this doctrine is a judicial innovation, and Supreme Court did not define. So, in the Keshavanand Bharati case 1973, Supreme Court innovated this new idea and said that there is basic structure, but Supreme Court did not define what is basic structure. Supreme Court only gave some examples, and it simply said there is basic structure, and Parliament, any law passed by the Parliament or any amendment by Parliament, any law passed by Parliament, cannot destroy the basic structure of the Constitution, cannot destroy the basic structure. Any law passed by the Parliament cannot cannot destroy the basic structure, and if it destroys, it will be declared void to the extent of destruction. So, Supreme Court can declare it as void to the extent of destruction. If it destroys the basic structure, to the extent of destruction, such portion can be declared void by the Supreme Court. So, this ensures the Supreme Court wanted to maintain the supremacy of the, so through basic structure, Supreme Court maintains the supremacy of the Constitution, maintains the supremacy of the Constitution. So, this Constitution is supreme. Constitution is supreme, and nobody is above the Constitution. Even the Parliament, which can amend the Constitution, has only limited powers. So, this basic structure, supremacy of the Constitution, it reminds the limited powers of the Parliament. Also, the Supreme Court wants to maintain its own superiority by way of judicial review. So, Parliament can make law, Parliament can make law, Parliament can make law, but Supreme Court can strike it down, or Supreme Court can review. Supreme Court will confirm and tell whether it is okay or not. So, Supreme Court superiority is ensured. The checks and balances in the Constitution is ensured. The checks and balances in the Constitution is ensured through this basic structure. Supreme Court says that Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution including fundamental rights, but subject to the basic structure, and Supreme Court will decide and tell what is the basic structure. Supreme Court did not define it. Supreme Court gave only examples. Supreme Court gave examples of basic structure. They did not define. Supreme Court said on a case to case basis they will tell you. So that means Supreme Court wanted to maintain the final say. They wanted to, if they define it, then the Parliament can accordingly do. But Supreme Court said the final word is with me. Final word is with the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is not going to give up on that. Supreme Court said, I will tell you as and when it is required what is the basic structure. So the terms, what define, what is the precise definition was not given, but in a number of decisions, Supreme Court explained and gave examples about the basic structure. For example, in the Keshwan Bharati case, Supreme Court, say in Keshwan Bharati case itself, in Keshavanand Bharati case, 1973, Supreme Court talked about Republican and democratic form of government. An example, Republican democratic form of government is an example. Then secular character of the Constitution, separation of power between various organs, separation of power. Then federal character of the Constitution, federal character of the Constitution. Then individual freedom, etc. So they talked about many examples. Similarly, in the Minerva Mills case, amending power of the Parliament, judicial review. In Minerva Mills case, judicial review. The amending power of the Parliament, the balance between fundamental rights and directive principles. Fundamental rights and directive principles, the balance. So they talked about many such examples. In the S.R. Bommai case, Supreme Court talked about secularism as a basic structure of the Constitution. So a series of examples were given. So, but now when you analyze about this, a couple of things I would like to say. Number one, see, the final word on the issue of basic structure is not yet pronounced. Okay. Now, one point you should always remember is this is an ever evolving concept. The final word is not yet pronounced. It is an ever evolving concept. The basic structure is an ever evolving concept. No doubt, there is basic structure. In any structure, any system, any organization, there are some core values. So basic structure is a reality. So Supreme Court is, and this situation is not going to change. Supreme Court will keep this option open, and it is not going to be a final definition, and structure is not going to come. It is an ever evolving concept, number one. And another thing is, some of the core values like sovereign, democratic, secular, rule of law, independence of judiciary, fundamental rights, these are non-negotiable in a democratic setup. So these will continue to be the basic structure. There may not be any change in that basic structure also, some of the more core values. So some of the core values there may not be any change. Some of the core values there may not be any change. Like the fundamental rights, you cannot, no matter what happens as a democracy, we cannot give up on the fundamental rights. The the Republican character of the Indian Constitution, this the democratic character, the secular character, very difficult, rule of law. So these are some of the most fundamental of all the values, and that is the hallmark of our Indian Constitution. That will continue to be the basic structure, no doubt regarding that. And these are essential features, it cannot be changed. And one more point is, one certainty that emerged out of this is, it was a tussle between the parliament and the judiciary. But one thing it has emerged is, all laws and constitutional amendments are subject to judicial review. One fundamental thing emerged is, all laws, all amendments are subject to basic, judicial review, are subject to judicial review. So the judiciary is making, or rather judiciary is maintaining its supremacy, and any law that transgress or it violates that basic structure will be struck down by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court is maintaining judicial review as a most fundamental of all the basic structure. And the Parliament's power is limited, it is not absolute. Basic structure tells very clearly, Parliament's power is limited. It is not absolute. And Supreme Court is the final arbiter and the interpreter of the Constitution. Supreme Court is the final arbiter and the interpreter of the Constitution. Final arbiter and interpreter of the Constitution, and the interpreter of the Constitution, all constitutional amendments. So checks and balance. So this basic structure ensures the checks and balances in the Constitution. So this will ensure that the power is not concentrated in one hand or in few hands, in one organ. The power will not be concentrated in one organ. Power is, that concentration of power in one organ is the biggest threat to democracy. And the basic structure doctrine, and it ensures that any legislation contrary to the basic structure is no law. There cannot be any law which is violating the basic structure, and amendments have to be, and in fact, it cannot violate the heart of our Constitution. It cannot take away. In fact, this judgment, in fact, in a 2006 judgment, in the I.R. Coelho judgment by the Supreme Court, in a 2007 judgment, it's a 2007 I.R. Coelho judgment, Supreme Court said that the doctrine of basic structure is providing a strong linkage with the fundamental rights. Basic structure gives a linkage to the fundamental rights, and the judgment said that the basic structure doctrine has, or it is, since the court declared, see, according to Article 141, any law declared by the Supreme Court is binding, or any pronouncement of the Supreme Court is binding on the all courts within the territory of India. So the basic structure doctrine, which is a legal pronouncement, it is a pronouncement of the court, is binding on all courts. So that is the law. So Supreme Court has very clearly said in the I.R. Coelho judgment in 2007 that because of Article 141, because of any judgment given by the Supreme Court is binding on all the courts within the territory of India, so it has become the law. So basic structure is the law. But at the same time, as I mentioned, it is not, the last word is not yet said. It is an ever evolving concept. In fact, one of the, the main architects of the basic structure, Justice Khanna said that no generation had the monopoly of wisdom. No generation has, or no generation had a monopoly of wisdom. No generation had a monopoly of wisdom. That means you cannot say that what you said is final. As the society evolves, as the society changes, the concept and the wisdom all will change, and new meaning to the basic structure will emerge, new ideas will come as part of the basic structure. So, this basic structure is an ever evolving concept, it is a dynamic concept, it will ensure the checks and balances in the constitution, it will not make the parliament authoritarian, it will not make any leader authoritarian, and the Supreme Court will ensure that this balance of power between the legislature and the judiciary is maintained. Basic structure is a wonderful concept that has actually changed the very philosophy of the Indian constitution, the way things are working. So, judges will have to stand up and say this is right or wrong, this power is with the judiciary. That helps, that will definitely help, provided the judges are willing to take that challenge. But if the judges are more than happy to give up, or if they are willing to surrender in front of the executive, then things may be different. But we expect the judiciary to stand up and protect the constitution, and because constitution is supreme. Basic structure doctrine tells us only one thing: constitution is supreme, all other organs draws its powers, all other organs have to draw its powers from the constitution. Constitution is supreme, and checks and balances among various organs. So, that is a beautiful concept, and this basic structure has actually ensured that Indian constitution is alive, it has not been destroyed, it's democratic, it's secular, it's republican. All these characters are protected because of the basic structure doctrine enshrined, or rather given by the Keshwan Bharati judgment of 1973.